Good evening, friends. Welcome you all in Seva Samajik Vikas Sanstha Satara. Today, in our English session, we are going to discuss about the topic verb. Is verb? Verb is the word that used to describe an action or talk about something that happens. Means whatever happens around us. To describe it, to show the possession, we use different words. And these words are called as verb. So verb can be classified as auxiliary verb and ordinary verb. So what do you mean by auxiliary verb? Auxiliaries we are using for many purpose. For example, in a sentence that I am a teacher. So here am is what? Auxiliary, and it's a main verb also. Whereas when I'm saying that I am teaching grammar, so teaching is ordinary verb. Teaching is ordinary verb. These auxiliaries can be classified as primary or modal auxiliary. Primary auxiliaries which we are using as helping verbs or in the form of to be, am, is, are, in a past tense was, were, and in future tense will. To have means has or have in present tense, such as I have a car. He has his own house. So have has in the past tense had. Do to do means do or does. For example, when we say in simple present tense, he works in a factory. He works. Works indicate verb, and along with that does. So when we say he works in a factory, it means he does work in a factory. So here do and does we are using means all these are primary auxiliary verbs. Now what do you mean by modal auxiliaries? Modal auxiliaries, we use these verbs with certain intention. For example, suppose we want to request someone. So will you please help me? Will you open the door? Can I get it? Or you must follow the instruction. Compulsion. To indicate compulsion, we are using must. It may rain. Possibility. To show the possibility, we can use this auxiliary verb that is may. Or I will achieve it. So to show or give assurance, we can use this auxiliary will. So with certain intention, when we are using these verbs, they are modal auxiliary verbs. In ordinary verbs, we can classify them as an auxiliary verb or as an ordinary or regular verb. For example, when I'm saying that he is writing a story. So writing is a main word, and to help it means as the sentence is in a present continuous tense, verb is in a fourth form, that is present participle form of the verb plus ing, and thus it is supported by this is. So he is writing a poem. In this is an auxiliary means ordinary auxiliary verb. He was running to catch train. So was, they are what primary, sorry, these ordinary auxiliaries. And then ordinary regular verbs means where we are saying that she is doctor or he was present. So in this, with the help of this chart, you are able to understand classification of verb. Now see the rules one by one regarding it. verb means ordinary verbs. They are also can classify as definite verb and non-definite verb. What do you mean by definite verb? Means the verb which has a subject of its own, or the verb which is limited by a person or the number of the subject, then it is called finite verb. Finite and non-finite. In a non-finite means exactly opposite of it, where verb is not limited by person or the number of subject. So that is what non-finite verb. For example, um, let's see the example of this finite and non-finite verb. In finite, you can see the sentence that she is playing tennis. So when she is playing tennis, here she is. Suppose we change that subject instead of she, suppose we use they. So we have to change that verb. They are playing tennis. So they are. So verb changes along with due to the number indicated by subject. They were watching movie. So that is what finite verb. In case of a non-finite, such as I like to read, or swimming is good exercise. So swimming. So in such sentences, verbs are not changed as there is a change in the number of subjects. So they are called as non-finite. Now finite can be classified as transitive and intransitive. What do you mean by transitive verb? Transitive verb means um, these verbs can pass us over to the object. It should be followed by object. And when they in a sentence, it is not necessary that verb is followed by object, then it can say as a intransitive. Intransitive object is necessary, and in case of intransitive there is no need of object. For example, he he reads, but what he reads newspaper every day. So newspaper is the verb, sorry, object followed by that verb reads. But when we say that she comes, so she comes, but it is not necessary the to write object or to mention object here. She comes on time. So here it is not necessary that object should be followed by the verb. So such verbs are called as intransitive. In short, transitive means where subject, verb, object. Such arrangement you are able to see subject, verb, and object. Such arrangement you are able to see in when the sentence is in an active voice. And in case of intransitive, means here subject and after that only verb is there and the remaining part of the sentence. It is not necessary that this subject, sorry, object will be there in the subject in the sentence. Means subject, after that verb, and then the remaining part of the sentence will be there. So they are called as intransitive verb. Finite verb can be classified as transitive and intransitive. Non-finite verb can be classified as in three categories, that is infinitive means to plus verb. For example, to dance, to read, to write. Gerund means verb plus ing. For example, swimming is good exercise. So what is good exercise? Swimming. So word swimming is verb plus ing word, but instead of playing role of a verb, it is used as a noun in the subject. So that's why swimming is a good exercise. In the sentence, swimming is not playing a role of a verb, it is playing role of noun, and that's why it is called as gerund. And the third one is a participle. Participles are also of two types, past participle and present participle. Present participle means again verb plus ing form, and past participle means third form of the verb. For example, written books of Shakespeare's are famous in the world. So what is famous? Books are famous. And how, which books? Written books. So written is adjective. Written is adjective used for the books. Means written verb V3 form of the verb is not playing role of a verb. Instead of it is playing role of adjective. And that's why it is called as a participle. Past participle. Present participle means verb plus ing form of the word. Means verb. And where it is playing a role of adjective, then it can be example of present participle. For example, she likes reciting poem. What she likes? The reciting poems. So poems, she likes poems. Poems is the object in the sentence. She is the subject. Likes is the verb. And reciting is the adjective used for that noun poem. Means reciting is the verb playing role of adjective, and that's why it is called as present participle. So non-finite verbs can be classified in three categories, that is infinitive, gerund, and participles. And participles are of two types, present participle and past participle. Now see the next one. Now these slides have information about all these kinds of verbs and their examples. According to this slide, verb can be classified as a finite and non-finite, and finite further classified as a transitive and intransitive. So you can write these notes. Finite verb has the subject. Finite verb has a subject of its own. Okay. So finite verb has a subject of its own and is limited by the person and the number of subject. She is playing tennis. She is playing tennis. Is. Instead of she, suppose plural subject will be there, then there will be change in this. They were watching television. Where. So instead of subject the or they, if we will change this subject, then accordingly we need to change this auxiliary where. So finite verbs can be classified as transitive and intransitive verb. What do you mean by transitive verb? Transit means move. Transit's word indicate to move. So action of transitive verb passes over to the object. For example, she writes a letter. Here she is the subject, writes is the verb, and letter is object. She teaches me. Here she is the subject, teaches is the verb, and to whom she teaches? So to me. So me is object here. Means the given sentences are the example of active voice, and here sentence arrangement is like that, subject plus verb plus object. Now when we are discussing about intransitive verb, Their action of intransitive verb does not pass over to the object. Means object, presence of object is not always necessary in the sentence, or it is not necessary that object should be followed by the verb, and it goes back to the subject. For example, she cries a lot. So cried, she cried a lot. Here she is the subject, and cried is what? Verb. And how much she cried? A lot. So it gives information about the action, but it does not followed by object. Then she came on time. So she is the subject, came simple, as sentence is in a simple past tense, so it is second form of the verb. And when he came on time, so it is, this also gives information about the verb, means it is adverb. Here there is a no presence of object. So both these examples are of intransitive verb. So transitive verbs alone can be used in passive voice. Intransitive verb, here as there is a no presence of object, so we cannot change it into passive voice. Sorry, means it, they are always in active voice. Now see the next one. Finite further classified as transitive verb and intransitive verb. Now non-finite we can classify as infinitive, gerund and participle. So let's see. Non-finite verb. Non-finite verbs are also limited by the person and number of any subject. They are used without mentioning any subject. For example, she came here. And for what? To study. To study is the verb. To study is the verb which will be in its form even though there will be change in the subject. Instead of she, I have used here I, he, they, you, anything means singular, plural form, or any kind of pronoun. This word, it will change, but not this one. So, to study is non-finite verb in the sentence. We saw them waiting for the bus. We saw them. We is the subject, saw is the verb, and to whom we saw them. So subject, verb, object. But see the remaining part of the sentence, waiting for the bus. So waiting is the action for the bus. So this word cannot be changed even though we have changed this subject, singular, plural form or anything. For example, I saw him waiting for the bus. We saw her waiting for the bus. So anything, though in a both subject or in the object, though we have changed anything, but there won't be any change in this waiting verb. And that's why it is an example of non-finite. She likes reciting poem. What she likes? So reciting poem. Poem is the object, she is the subject, and likes is the verb, but reciting is used for the poems. It means it is a playing reciting word. Recite is the verb. Reciting is fourth form of the verb. But here it is a playing role of adjective for these poems. And that's why it is example of participle. It is example of present participle. This is example of gerund. This is example of infinitive. Now let's see the rules regarding these verbs. See the first rule: when two or more subjects are joined by, as well as, like, unlike, beside. Okay. When two or more subjects are joined by, as well as, like, unlike, besides, in addition to, with, together with, along with, and not, rather than, no less than, except, nothing but, more than one. So if we have joined two subjects with the help of this, then while using the verb, it should be according to the first subject. We must give preference to the first subject. For example, the director, as well as the dancers. Okay. The director is one subject here. The dancers, second subject in the sentence, were honored by the public. Why? Where is used by observing this dancer? But this is the mistake. When two subjects are joined with this, as well as, in such case, we must use helping verb according to the first subject. And that's why director here is, it's in a singular form. And that's why instead of where, we must use was. So director as well as dancers was honored by the public. Instead of where, was must be there. See the second example. The mother and not her children. The mother and not her children have been arrested for committing theft. The mother and not. This conjunction is used to join these two subjects, mother, her children, and not, and not. This conjunction is used, and that's why instead of have, we must use to have form of the primary auxiliary according to the first subject, and that is the mother. So the mother has, not have. So the mother and not her children has been arrested for committing theft. See the next example. More men than one were absent yesterday. More men than one. Than one. Comparison is done between more and one. So, than is used as a conjunction. More men, plural. One is singular, but according to our rule, we must go with the first subject, and that's why more men. So, where must be there, and this is correct sentence. Nothing but truth. Nothing but. Truth is immortal. Truth, uncountable. Noun it is, abstract noun. Nothing but is used. So is the correct primary auxiliary use here. My mother, no less than my father, is straight. No less than. Comparison is made between mother and father. Two subjects are there. But at a time, we have to consider the first one subject, my mother, singular, and that's why is of to be form will be there. So I hope so you have understood different types of sentences, and first rule regarding that. We will continue this topic in our next session. So, thank you very much for being with me for the time. Thank you and have a great day.